You're listening to the Salty Sex Cast with Pamela and Mariah.
Yeah, and what's puberty?
The sex education you wish you had in high school.
Maybe a diagram will help.
Hello. Welcome back to the Salty Sex Cast. I was so excited, my tongue couldn't keep up.
That's adorable.
Oh, thanks. And it's kind of hard. I feel like I'm missing half my senses because I am still feeling slightly blind. I got LASIK recently and have to wear sunglasses indoors because lights are still really, really bothering me.
You look hilarious in the studio.
Thank you. But it really is like when one of your senses is dulled, you feel like you just can't be available all around. Like I am actually really sensitive to the sounds right now because my eyes aren't quite there. And I'm like, can you turn that down? Like the TV in my house. And my husband loves to watch TikToks. And so he was watching TikTok. But then we also had the TV going. And I was like, that irritated the shit out of me. And I did not mean to get so aggressive. But I like grabbed the remote and just turned off the TV. I was like, if you were going to watch that, like why watch the other one? And so it was just too much sound. And then I couldn't really hear. And I was really trying to like keep my eyes open and do something than sit around. It was great. So like recovery, I've tried to keep my eyes closed and I got to catch up on all my other podcasts that I do like to listen to.
Oh, that's great. I'm
So
glad you had some time to yourself.
Thank you. So anyone who wants to use our podcast as a LASIK recovery, here's your episode, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. But
So, Mariah,
yes,
tell me who you are.
my name is Mariah and I just got LASIK so I can see, but I am also, I have a master's degree in health promotion and education, and I'm a board certified health and wellness coach and a certified health education specialist. So health and wellness and coaching are my jam.
Sweet.
Yeah. Who are you, Pamela?
I'm Pamela, and I co-own Silk and Salt Photography, which is a boudoir photography studio that specializes in female empowerment and body positivity. We just want to spread love.
Huge on the body positivity. Oh, I love watching your guys' posts and everyone who gets on there. I think it's just incredible. And there's a story behind every photo and how well those photos like just bring out the true highlights of that person.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we run a very inclusive studio. So most, if not all, boudoir photographers, we've noticed they really only post like skinny bitches, and our clients are all shapes and sizes, and we love that.
Yes.
Anyway, enough about business.
And who is the buttons guy back there who's not getting my like hand signals of, hey, I need the show notes pulled up, sir, because my brain is dumb today. So I'm like, here, point out of the camera. I'm hoping I'm not in view.
I thought you were trying to get the camera. I thought you were trying to get me to turn the camera around. And I was like, I'm not going to do it.
Turn the camera back onto me, please. Yeah, no, anyway, who are you, Brady?
I'm Brady, the owner of Murder Shack Studios.
Where we are at currently recording inside of.
Yeah.
Inside of the Murder Shacks.
Welcome inside to the Murder Shack.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's actually, it feels nice and toasty today. Usually it's quite chilly so thank you so much for making it comfortable for us.
Yeah.
The snow is insulating us right now.
That's probably what it is.
Oh,
Probably what it is. Yeah.
It's
So-
pretty snowy outside.
So a few weeks ago, we set our sex resolutions. How are you guys doing on those?
Very poorly.
Really good.
Brady, what was yours and where's your count?
Well, I lost count.
Oh, you're supposed to keep a tally.
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
I can add 4 just from the last 2 days. So.
Dang. Good job.
Yeah.
And this was eating
Pussy.
pussy.
Performing.
Why is that so funny?
I don't know why.
Cunnilingus.
Also, why didn't you say pussy?
I wasn't sure how dirty we were going
My
early.
delicate flower.
I know. So we're there. We have already said the P word. I'm just kidding. Like I've ever censored myself a fucking day in my life.
I think eating pussy sounds better than cunnilingus, though.
Does it?
I think so. To me.
I think they're about the same.
Yeah.
I really want to say
They're the same.
cuntilingus. Like that's what kind of wants to come out of my mouth.
Cunnilingus.
Cuntilingus because it's cunnilingus. Anyway, I like the word. I like the word cunt, and every once in a while, if something sounds like it, I'm like,
How are you doing on your sex solution?
it's on my mind, and I'm being slightly more intentional. But it's still not a huge priority. But it's still there, and it's growing. And since I've made that commitment publicly, I don't want to disappoint any of my listeners.
Yeah, your listeners will be pissed if you don't masturbate, Mariah.
Right. They're probably just like, God, this woman can't play with herself. Who is she? I can't even trust her. Yeah. So update 1. So is that total 3? Sure. That's what we're going to say. And I need to now write this down. Brady.
Can't we keep a tally on the whiteboard?
I feel like we should keep a tally on the whiteboard.
So here's the thing about mine.
Yes. You need a lot of pre-work.
I'm having the hardest time finding the right man to fulfill this role for me, because he needs to be like attractive to myself and my other female partner, both physically, but also like just personality, on the personality level. And needs to be our friend, but super detached about the sex. Like, I don't want anybody, that wants to start a relationship with me.
You've got enough
I
right
have
now.
enough of that. And so it needs to be just casual fun, and then they need to be pretty available too. So it's a tall order.
That is.
It's a really tall order. And like, we've been like putting our feelers out and kind of meeting people and stuff, and just,
But again, you're putting some intentional energy out there.
Yeah.
So that's why we set those resolutions.
yeah, that doesn't mean that I haven't had plenty of anal sex lately. And sometimes like, Amanda and Henry will double penetrate me. That's nice. Amanda will put on a strap on,
Nice.
Yeah, so you're still enjoying it, and
but
it's not the same.
it's
Okay.
it's not the same.
Okay, well, I don't know.
It's good, but there's just something about two penis, like
Peni?
peni. But no, what do you call them? Because like I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about like a natural penis versus a dildo, and they had like special names for them. Have you heard that before?
No.
I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Analog and digital? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But let's take a moment and give a big shout out to all those who've made this podcast possible and have financially supported our endeavors of getting education out to you all. So just a quick shout out to Bree, Carter, Benjamin, Alex, Michael, Mistress London, David, and Mike. Y'all are awesome.
We love you guys.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. So today, we're going like really back to the basics, like super, super basic of not high school. What am I thinking of?
Sex ed?
No.
Thank you.
Anomic aphasia.
Right? So like not like sex health or high school health class. Like I try to purge that because that was seriously
So unhelpful.
oh my God. It was like really just the physiological. Like it was just like, hey, this body part does this, that body part does that. Sometimes when they get together, there's a new body part made, and that's a human baby. Like, cool. That's really all I remember from high school health. They never talked on like the social, emotional part of sexuality or anything. So we're really going to pull this back, and I know we deep dive, and sometimes we do some really scary things that if someone is not like really ready for that, I guess, what's the word? a sex freak. No, I'm just kidding. But, it's kind of like, hey, I tuned in, or I want to just improve things slightly. Like I want like a safer place to actually learn how to be sexually well. What does that look like as an adult? What does sexual wellness look like? If you could put a definition to it right now, Brady, what would it be?
I don't really know that. Me?
Yes.
Me.
You?
Yeah.
You're sexually well?
Yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not stigmatized to a point where I'm uncomfortable to ask my partner what I need. Or like she also cannot ask for what she needs. And like, it doesn't always go well. And sometimes we laugh.
Yeah.
But we're able to work through it and improve every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's a level of growth there and, like continual.
Yeah, I mean, it's
growth.
like going to the gym or, like even if you were to put it in the, like, if you're just teaching yourself a new craft, like how to knit,
Yeah.
you can always improve your knitting.
So it's a practice. It's not like I have achieved sexual wellness. Like it's like I am always trying to.
Yeah, it's
find
like
a point.
mental health, right? You don't stop going to therapy. Your therapist doesn't usually look at you and say, "You're done.
Good job."
Here's your certificate.
I mean, there might be times where you don't need it as much as others, but yeah.
Okay.
I think it's about maintenance, right? I feel like if it's like emotional and physical health, as well as the absence of sexual hangups.
Okay. So there's definitely like the absence of like the negative things, but you also had like so no negative or less negative, but you also talked about positive. I feel like when we learned about sexual health, it was really just, let's just avoid the negative, the disease, unplanned pregnancies, and like that was it.
Yeah.
It was never like, this is what healthy sexual people do. And did that sentence ever come out of anyone's mouth? I want to talk about that. Like, what do healthy sexual people do?
That is such a good point. Yeah.
What does having a healthy sexual appetite maybe look like when you feel that it's maybe off center or not there with at least what you think it should be? Where do you even start and how do you start? So, the World Health Organization actually defines sexual wellness as a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It is not merely the absence of disease, dysfunction, and infirmity. So they straight up already said, like, they have that positive side and the negative side. They're kind of looking at, we're not just avoiding this stuff. We also want more of this good stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm going to like really put it in layman's terms today. But yeah, so looking at that definition, where do you think, fuck, it's going to be hard to talk. Where do you think you fall within that now that you've kind of had like an actual written definition?
Brady, can you scroll back up a little bit so I can see the whole thing?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I have a pretty healthy, like, physical state, emotional state, mental state, absence of disease. I think that I have some sexual dysfunction based on just like, I don't know, the social norms I was raised with.
But you're aware of those.
Yeah, I'm aware of my dysfunction now, and I'm aware that things could be healthier, and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how to sum that up. I would.
No, you're fine. No, I'm just kind of curious, like, what stood out to you? What do you relate to? I think definitely, like, always when I think of, like, sexuality, and being safe or, like, healthy, it really was, like, disease. Like, as long as I wasn't diseased, I was okay sexually. But now I'm like, oh my God, that's, like, the tiniest piece of it. And even then, there's so many treatments and medical things that, like, it's not as scary as it once was. And it's, we should be putting more energy and intention to actually, like, define what does that mental and emotional side look like too. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, there's if you're thinking, I want all of our listeners to really think, where do you feel you land on that definition or the sexual wellness spectrum? Where do you want to improve and grow on? And I'm going to break it down into a few sections too, if that helps. Where do you want to start? But while I was kind of doing some research for this episode, I found this really interesting statistic that was in an article from Forbes magazine that says, does sexual well-being lead to better life and leadership skills? Which I was like, what is this? Let's read this. Anyway, but it actually says research confirms that sexual satisfaction affects relationship satisfaction, which is key to earning potential. For example, in one longitudinal, oh, I did say it the first time. Okay. Harvard study, the data revealed that fulfilling relationships are key to happiness, health, and longevity. And not only that, those with the most fulfilling relationships earned an average of $141,000 a year.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating? So if you have
Better sex, better checks.
Oh my God, I love it. Where did you hear, did you just think of that?
Yeah.
Oh, I love you, Brady.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's why we keep you around.
That's right.
You and your gray sweatpants today. Love it.
You said my butt looked cute in these sweatpants.
I did. I said that, and that
Yeah, thank
compliment
you.
was very genuine.
It really meant something to me because I bought them and I was trying to be all gray sweatpant cute for Jamie, and I don't think she noticed.
No.
So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, you need to bend over in front of her more than.
I think if I'd have been doing the dishes when I tried them on and not just
Ooh,
sort of
yeah.
shaking it at her, it probably would have been better.
I
Probably.
totally agree.
Yeah. So that's on me. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're here to learn. That's what we're here for today.
Yeah.
Better sex, better checks.
Okay. So I find this fascinating. But I also relate to it because I, as my relationships have improved, my income has gone up significantly.
We'll kind of actually break that down and why.
Okay,
today.
Good.
Yeah.
I want to know the why behind it.
Yeah, that's why this is what I do. This is what I love, you guys. I'm super excited to share this with everybody. So the reason I chose even the verbiage of wellness versus health is because they're different. There's a different level. There's a different, you're looking at holistic wellness. It's this big picture thing, and a lot of these things are related and they bleed into each other. And so the best way to look at it in most practices, I guess, and anyone who talks about wellness, there's at least 6 to 8 dimensions that they talk about. So these are the areas of wellness. So it's that social, emotional, physical, environmental, intellectual, spiritual, occupational, and financial. So those are going to be the 8 dimensions that I'm going to touch on. And how do those even relate to sex? Okay. But when you can balance all of those areas, when, one isn't screaming it's unhealthy or anything, because they're going to trickle into everything else. That's actually the behind story of why I named my business the way I did. 'Cause my business is called Balance Your Wellness, because I wanted people to balance their areas, their dimensions of wellness.
Okay.
It wasn't just coming to me to lose weight. It was coming to me let's look at all these different areas. So if we're looking at a lot of these areas with the lens of relationships and sexuality, it's actually can make a lot of sense. So for example, we talk a ton about the social implications and the connectedness people have socially on a sexual level, how to communicate, how to set boundaries. We've had specific episodes just on those 2 things, so we're very specifically building that one area. But there's so many other, social things, that can even go into being happy, being single, or being in a polyamorous relationship. Like, think of your social well-being, what goes into that, and how does that affect your sexuality? Do you need more? Do you need less? Like, do you need to increase your communication skills? Do you need to increase your boundaries? So just kind of breaking it down. Any examples come to mind when I say social wellness and sexuality? I kind of listed a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to take all of those for you. How about you, Brady? Anything that...
You took them all.
I took them all?
You took them all.
It can even be like language that we use with other people. How we refer to sex and intimacy with somebody else. So it could even be like the approach of it too. That's that social component that comes in.
Okay.
So, just thinking of, I just take your own mini inventory of where you're at with your social wellness when thinking in that sexual lens, right? But we'll keep moving on, and because they're all interrelated. So then you have emotional wellness and thinking of your emotional state. So we've even had episodes on like shame and excitement and having that emotional state of do you recognize your own feelings when they come up? And then can you realize if you're unable to recognize those feelings in yourself or in others? So here's the emotional and social, how they relate. So looking that in others, there might be a blockage of having that sexual wellness. Like it's hard to have that without those pieces. Am I making sense? Am I just talking?
No, I think you're making sense.
I can't see your facial expressions a whole lot with my sunglasses on.
You're making sense. I think we're both brave enough to stop you if we don't understand something you're saying.
So to recap so far, we're talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so far you've covered the social and emotional dimensions. And you're saying these are all interconnected. And if you want to take a holistic approach, you need to assess each one.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, because sometimes I need to slow down. When I get really excited about something, I'm going to be like, we're rolling. You guys better board this train because I'm taking off. But then, we can go to the very basics of sex and sexuality. And that's, like physical. I mean, that's where we talk about like in high school health class. They're typically talking about the physical side of sex. They're just talking about anatomy and physiology. And that's all they say, right? But there can be quite a bit of other things that go into that physical side that can hurt or help your sexual wellness. Like, are you exercising? And exercise also bleeds into emotional health. Like you can get feel better and be happier when you're exercising. But there's also things such as like pain management, like for physical or ED too. So there's a lot of other things that kind of can contribute to that physical side of sexuality that can cause an imbalance in wellness and feeling well and feeling healthy in that sexual side of you. But I'll move to the next dimension just to kind of get a full picture real fast. And then if you guys wanted to go back in and deep dive in any area or even talk about how the areas interrelate with each other. But there's environmental. So even like the thinking of your environment, like do you have a private space to be intimate with yourself or with others? Or is it cold? Too cold? We've talked about that several times, like if we're not comfortable with our environment, but also, that could even be like, right now we have a new puppy who sleeps with us and I call her my Fuzzy cock block.
I was really wondering what that was.
Yeah,
in
I
the
was
notes,
thinking.
weren't you?
Yeah, I was like,
I
is
was
this
trying to think of all of the
Yeah.
things.
I'm getting there.
was
that
this
are
a
fuzzy.
grooming issue or like
That really is too.
you get too excited about your weighted blanket? Like I dislocated my shoulder with a weighted blanket, right? So I was like, I was really excited about my weighted blanket, and so I was like, maybe she got a weighted blanket too.
Yeah.
Sort of like pulled her neck and was like, I was not gonna be able to fool around tonight.
Yeah. But truly, hey, there's that physical side coming in. But yeah, like I hadn't, taking the time and energy to set up, is your environment even conducive to a healthy sexual, like
It's a good sexual experience.
yeah. So that's just one more thing you can pay attention to, and that you have this autonomy to choose and to change and improve on, or not, and work on something else if something else is screaming louder. Right now, currently, it's our environmental for myself and my spouse. Like,
Because of the new dog?
because of the new dog.
Okay. Not
We're
the
trying-
LASIK. It's not him giggling when you're wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, this could be that too. I have some really sexy eye shields I have to tape to my face at night so I don't rub my eyes in my sleep too. It's all sorts of lovely right now. But it's temporary. It's very temporary. The dog kind of seems like she's going to be hanging around for a little bit. So I'm like, we need to start conditioning her to be somewhere else.
I was going to say, if a dog was getting in the way of my sex life, I think I would hire a trainer immediately.
It's not that she's
Immediately.
not trainable. Like, it's just that, like, it was convenient for her to stay with us because she's still having to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. And we chose not to kennel her or kennel train her. And so, anyway, she now can sleep through the middle of the night or through the night. So now we need to change it. And it's just now, like, this now is my priority. I am verbally announcing this to all who is listening. I'm going to be working on this environmental area in my life to improve my sexual wellness.
Excellent.
But then we move on to like intellectual. Like this is another part of you holistically. Intellectual, like this is you're taking your time to learn new things. You are listening to this podcast. You're learning something about sex and sexuality, right? Like that's already a way that you can. There's other ways, reading books, watching movies, anything like even porn could be a way to explore that. And like, that's where I always watch the end of porn. Not always, but sometimes I'm curious. I'm just feeling that intellectual side of my sexuality.
I used to listen to, like, one of the things that I think made me successful at sex in high school was listening to an old school radio program called Loveline. Mm-hmm. With Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew.
Yeah, so many people know that one.
Yeah, loved it. And I would just like lay in bed the night before, like I'm getting ready to go to bed for school, and I'd lay in bed and I'd listen to that, and then I'd go to school and be like, who am I going to try this out on?
But I mean, I know a lot of people who love to read books like on sexuality and improving relationships. And that's a huge part of that intellectual piece. You're intentionally putting effort in there to improve that area.
You're listening.
Wow.
I did not mean to click on that. I'm sorry.
Brady's getting a little click happy. It's okay. We love him. All good. Then we kind of move to the spiritual side. And this, again, we're looking at the holistic person. Some people struggle to connect to the spiritual side or even see it or even say that it's there.
What are you looking at me for?
I am. I'm looking at you because I know you not struggle, but you can't connect to this type of thought and belief. Correct? Spirituality?
I think you just have a healthy skepticism.
Yeah, I feel like I'm connected with as much spirituality as there can be.
As you can.
Yeah.
allow it
And
to
that's
be.
fine. It's going to
Yeah.
be different for everyone.
Sure.
Exactly. Well, that's why I wanted you to share your experience on that, because as soon as someone hears spirituality, they're like, oh, church, fuck that.
Yeah.
And shut off immediately because that's their definition of spirituality. But being a spiritual being,
Sure.
really, I connect with that definition in this is my connectedness to myself and others and other energy. So, I mean, there's this, it's kind of like we're all connected in this world. We all share this space. That's how a lot of times, and I even can picture like atoms moving about. That's how I personally have been able to connect with the spirituality concept.
Mine's a little bit more like the Matrix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different. I mean, and it's not tangible.
Still works.
Yeah. I mean, typically it's really hard to explain because there isn't a tangible measurement like physical that you can measure. Even emotional sides are hard sometimes to get measurements on. There's not a tool that says you're this level of happy or excited. You can say you feel this, but anyway. So again, it's just one that's typically very difficult to connect with because either stigma or negative experiences with religion or anything like that. But
You could use Tantra, though.
Yes.
To connect to that side of your sexuality, as we just learned in the last episode.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that in. Exactly. So.
And I am thinking about starting a religion.
Oh, yeah.
I'm totally down. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Just purely focused on sex and sexual
What's the
energy.
flavor of Kool-Aid that we're drinking? I'm just kidding.
Cherry?
It's sex flavored.
No, it's sex.
It's sex flavored Kool-Aid.
I love it. No, I think it's fantastic. But so I wanted to just take a minute to kind of like give that some time and thought, 'cause a lot of people just shut it down. There's different ways that you can look at it. It's just looking outside of yourself. It's not quite that social because, that's actually person to person. This is just bigger than you, even if you want to think of like nature or vibrations, anything like that. So again, lots of different ways to look at it, and it's how you connect with that. But moving on, there's the occupational dimension of wellness. And this, is everything, how do you earn a living? What are your hobbies? So this bleeds into your sexuality and your sexual wellness by, are you holding, too much time and energy for your hobbies and work that you're not allowing yourself to be a sexual being? And is that cutting you off from sexual wellness? If you're happy with that level, that's, again, this is very personalized. Is work schedule requirements affecting your relationship?
Work's probably the biggest problem in my relationship, my sexual relationship.
I think that's so common.
Yeah. I feel like that's the biggest stressor, whether it's I'm having issues at my work or my wife is having issues at her work.
So that's a stress and emotional piece working together with that occupational, but also like you can even think of like work schedules. I know you guys struggle, Brady, you and your spouse struggle to kind of match up sometimes that time off, and I can relate to that as well.
Sure.
Or just putting so much time and energy, and I do get fulfilled from work so easily that I forget to save some of that. Like I need to reserve some of that time and energy I pour into growing myself in my work, that I'm like, I still want to grow myself with my, in my sexual and relationship and partnership. So that's another area that I would like to, obviously hobbies of podcasts sometimes are a little cock block too. But yeah, I mean, it's just looking at it in a different way. Like how many times do you even consider work?
You have to just prioritize your sexual health.
And sometimes it's a constant shift of priorities. You're constantly looking at all these different areas and you're saying, okay, today or right in this moment, I am taking the time. Yes, I still want to save some energy, but like this is, so it's just this continual, but until you're aware of how many I guess not how many areas, but the different types of areas that affect and what they bleed into. But sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm a master overscheduler.
Same. I hit the ground running every single day, and I need to like take time to, like, how much am I affecting every other area and that whole balance of it all.
Yeah.
But
sometimes for me, it's easy to get upset at Jamie. Be like, well, we're not fucking because you started a new job, so you need to sort your shit out. And then I'll get busy at work, and I'll kind of do the same thing where it's sort of like, or it turns into the opposite thing where it's like, I don't sort my shit out and take care of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at that, what would you feel like would be the first area you could put some energy into to shift that?
I try to be more understanding with her because I know that like she's stressing pretty much all the time with her new job. So
that's a little bit of the social emotional side of that.
Yeah.
Show some compassion to her and yourself.
Yeah. And the trick of it is to actually get what I need. I need to do what she needs, which is just sort of be there and be supportive. And then that sometimes translates into.
I really like what Rocky suggested in the last episode where, he said, if your partner seems like they're too stressed out or never in the mood or whatever, then attend to them physically and
serve them in a different way.
Create an environment in which they would want to get romantic or intimate, so think about like how their body's feeling right now. Is it all stressed out? Is there something I can take off your plate? Let me do the dishes so you don't have to, or whatever.
Yeah, kind of. And there's one last area of at least dimension that we'll speak of today, and that's the financial. There's the stresses of making money and making ends meet, but there's also, people who pay for intimacy too. So is that something that you want to make sure, and if that's a healthy way for you to be, sexually well, that's a piece that you have to always consider. If finances are another thing that affect you, if you feel like the only reason your partner is with you is for financial gain, that's going to put some heavy things on that sexual just holistic person, and so it's just really important to kind of consider how all of these little pieces can tip the scales into negative side of sexual wellness and intimacy and relationships.
Create an imbalance.
Yeah. So it's never like, hey, I feel great in every area. I'm good to go. I don't have to work on anything. But it's more of looking at all of them. How do they play within each other? And what can I do right now? What's my important step, or what's my first step? And instead of saying, a lot of people think it's just that social piece. If I could just put better boundaries, I'm good. When really it's probably actually more of an intellectual, maybe they just didn't know how to be intimate besides one way. And that's, so it's this actual like slight ignorance piece that's actually tripping them up, and continually that frustration, that negative loop of frustration and blame, and I'm just never going to be sexually well or satisfied or anything. So as you're looking at this list, anything jump out to you that either of you guys would like to work on or haven't considered as part of it? Brady, you want to scroll down just a little bit? We kind of lost half the list. Or up.
Up.
Sorry, excuse me. Wrong direction.
That I want to work on personally?
Or just that you see, maybe even in other people, that you're like, I could see where a lot of people maybe ignore this fact, and that's maybe why they're...
I kind of mentioned mine already with the occupational
and
stresses.
I want to work on the spiritual piece, because that's something I really haven't connected to in years, but I'm working on it. I think it's like, for a while when I figured out there was no God, I just kind of eschewed all spirituality and, you know, thought I had a lot of like negative ideas and judgments. I had a lot of negative judgments about it. And since then, I've kind of missed that side of me.
Yeah, because it's still part of a whole person.
Right. And I want to reconnect with it somehow. So I think sex is a good way for me to connect through that because it's an area of my life I feel very comfortable in.
Mm-hmm. And you enjoy, and it's a positive feedback loop for you. You know, it's not this, gotta get outside of my comfort zone just to start this thing. You know, it's, I could tell you for a long time, it was emotional was constantly the area that tripped me up, you know, so much shame.
Yeah, me too.
That really just held so much space, and it actually came out in a physical way where not being able to climax, not even being able to be there physically. It's almost like you go away for a minute and you have that audit, you know, and how these things all affect each other. I think the communication piece is always one that a lot of people like go to as like, hey, we just need to communicate better, but not being really versed in a few of the other dimensions and how other things affect each other. And really, maybe it could be financial things. And it's just like, hey, I'm so stressed about how we're going to pay for bills that I just can't, you know, like that's the priority for me. So sex seems like it's actually, or I'm using sex to fulfill a stress relief because of financial. And so now it's an unhealthy balance. Exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of seeing, and really we can look at sex to fulfill any voids in any of these areas could be easily, you know, done.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'm unfulfilled at my job, so I'm going to
find fulfillment
sexually. Yeah. I mean, we can look at all of these areas, but really what I love to look at is how do they play together and like the double dipping activities. You know, it's like, okay, anything with double.
I got excited too. I just wasn't as close to my microphone. Double dipping.
So like double dipping, you know, where it's just like, hey, let's make an intellectual social activity to improve our sexuality. So it's like, my partner and I are reading a book that talks about sexuality. We're being social and we're fueling that intellectual. And like, you know, that can even feed into other things where it's, Brady, can you please go up again? I need to look at the list. Thanks. And my examples, you know, or it's, I almost called it remote. It's a mouse. Thank you.
Welcome.
I got to control it all now. But yeah, so that's why I like to call like the double dipping activities where you're actually being intentional and how can I reach a couple of these, or, cause then it's one source of energy, but I'm creating two positive outcomes that just bleed into each other.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying perfect. So I'm like, did I even explain that?
Nope. Okay. It was great. Yeah. It was just like double penetration.
Yeah. But so
getting those needs met.
So really just looking at these and like taking that inventory and like, what do I enjoy? And even like, hey, I'm really strong in that physical side or something. I can still, like, it doesn't mean I have to shelve that and work on everything that's low, that scores maybe lower, or that is, you know, it's still being mindful of all of them. I have to fuel every area and be intentional with how I spend my energy to make sure I'm not forgetting some of these areas.
Yeah.
To be balanced. Really.
So before we move on,
yes,
you were going to tell us, how do we make a lot of money by having great sexual relationships?
I was.
Yeah.
Sex and checks, yo.
Oh, sex.
Why is that relationship true? Why is there a positive correlation between good sexual health and good financial health?
Because they fuel each other. So if you think your sexual health, so back to that research that said sexual satisfaction affects relationship satisfaction, which is key to earning potential. So it's almost kind of like they feed into each other. So if you're looking at this, sometimes these 8 dimensions as like a circle, they almost kind of like trickle into the next one. Because you are being intentional with your relationships. If you're fueling your relationship, most likely you're looking at that emotional, that physical, that environmental. You're already being intentional with some of that. And like if you're aware of how those already fuel into each other and how to do it, typically you're pretty aware on how to make an earning.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that individuals who are more self-aware are also more likely to, 1, have healthy relationships and sexual relationships, and 2, how to make a good living.
Essentially.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry, it's not this big secret. Can't just snap my fingers and make you, what was that?
Basically, if you get your shit together, you're going to make more money and probably have better sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can prioritize. If you prioritize money first, so this is almost a bit of a like step process. If you prioritize money first, your relationships will probably falter.
Well, that's why I'm so curious about it, right? Is because is there a causational relationship here or just a correlational one? Because
I think you can argue almost either point.
Well, because if it is correlational, then I don't know, you could just say, well, look at all these like high earners. I don't know. I'm curious if it could work either direction.
Yeah. I think causational is really how I related to that information a little bit more. Like if you were putting intentional effort to strengthen relationships and you have a strong relationship, that gives you more opportunity and more, what's the word I'm thinking of? I mean, I guess I can just say energy too, of being able to build your occupational and financial wellness.
See, I think it's maybe even more simple than that. I think it's possibly that people who are in unhealthy emotional relationships and who are sexually frustrated have a hard time concentrating on their job.
Ooh, yeah.
I know I did. When things were rough for me, I had a really hard time focusing on work enough to be an effective worker.
Yeah.
So ladies, if you want your men to make more money, put in the effort.
Wow.
Oh my God, Brady.
Where's the dick that I can slap you with?
That's why I put them all on the shelf.
They're all within arm's reach, Mariah.
No, I think it's, I mean, I cracked a joke, but if you and your partner are actively working together, whether you're men or women or whatever, if you're actively working together to be better people already, then it seems like that financial success might follow.
Yeah, or just walk away from a shitty relationship
so
get
that you can
focus on better things and maybe have a better relationship.
Yeah. But it's cool. It's cool to think about and they actually have like this study that kind of just show that there was some type of connection one way or another. I mean, there's always the people on the outliers that are, billionaires who are miserable in their relationships, but they are the one in very few. This is looking at quite a few chunk of people, if you're looking at that bell curve, they're the ones in the...
But see, I think it actually works the opposite way too, because I find that when I have plenty of money and I'm not worried about money, then I have like the time and space to devote to, I can throw money at the the more minor problems. Oh, my house is dirty. I'll just hire somebody to clean it. Now I have time to go out on a date.
I think
with
there's
my
definitely an
partner.
earner's threshold too in there. You know, it's like if you make within, you know, like this, if you're struggling to make ends meet, you're probably going to, you know, that's where it bleeds out into I'm stressed, and being open and fostering that relationship is difficult because I'm stressed about this financial thing.
Because most of the 8 dimensions of wellness that you mentioned, the things that hamper that wellness are stressors.
Yeah.
Essentially, like that's what it all boils down to is, do you have stressors in your life that are keeping you in your head and preventing you from focusing on a healthy sex life?
Yeah, this just defines it a little bit into those like
Just categories.
categories. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm stressed, but am I really stressed about work, or am I stressed about the money that I'm not making at work?
Right.
Am I? Yeah. So it just kind of pinpoints a little bit, and you can start defining where you can put your energy to create better, healthier patterns. And, you know, yeah, it's just, I like looking at them because it makes sure that I am looking at everything instead of just my physical wellness, because I think that's probably a lot of ones that, and we are getting a little bit better with like emotional and mental health. And kind of like really looking at that and how does that affect everything right now. So it's just looking at that whole person and that, but before we take up too much time thinking of all those 8 dimensions, I really wanted to highlight some of the practices that people who report having optimal sexuality, just an amazing sex life, absolutely love it, that like couldn't be better. You know, like these were the people that reported this, and this was from a 2009 study that says, you know, the components of optimal sexuality, what were those themes? And so some of them, or one of them was being present or focused on the sexual experience. So you're actually intentionally being there. You know, I kind of also think of they don't have specific expectations either. So it's just kind of like you're being there present in the moment instead of saying like, my expectation is I get off kind of thing. So I kind of was like, at least that's how I personally interpreted it. Having a strong connection was another one. So this isn't just, you know, random sex. Like it's like you've had
Strong emotional connection.
Yeah, some type of connection. And that doesn't mean that it has to be a certain time period or anything. It's just being able to define it as strong. Deep intimacy. What do you think that would be? Or do you have an example?
I think it's willingness to be vulnerable with your partner, right? That usually fosters intimacy. Just being willing to open up about whatever the fuck is going on in your head.
Lots of trust in there too. Yeah. Communication and empathy. We already talked about communication as part of that social dimension of wellness, but and then empathy is also like just that connectedness. So even like empathy could also be argued as like that spiritual component too, because like that's how, you know, you show vulnerability and accept others in their own vulnerability.
That's what I was going to say, is that it's an element of intimacy.
Yeah.
Because it's like saying to your partner, hey, whatever it is you're going through, we're in this together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really, really like looking at it that way. Another one was being true to yourself while in the moment. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, maybe at one point or another, the reason I didn't have, and I actually had really poor sexual health. Like I wouldn't even say it wasn't, I couldn't even call it health, sexual illness, it was just kind of like, oh, I just needed to do this for someone else. Like I didn't think of my needs in that moment, wasn't able to recognize them, performed for someone else, like, and that just took away from the entire experience, and it wasn't a mutually beneficial thing. And so I think that's really what is important is you have to be in tune, aware,
and honoring your voice.
I
think so many of us women lose our voice, and Oh God, that's so fucking important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think obviously that's why it was listed for a reason. Feelings of euphoria.
Yeah, I'll
create?
just do that.
Yeah, right. I'm like, can you relate to this? Like I struggled. I'm not quite sure like how to connect that with that personally. Do you guys have any?
I mean, sometimes I feel feelings of euphoria during great sex. But I don't know how feelings of euphoria create great sex.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I kind
I
of
wonder
feel like
if
it's
that's like proof in the pudding. Like, you're having great sex when you're experiencing like, but I don't want to say like you can't have great sex without euphoria. So I don't know. It's just something listed from the study. Again, I just wanted to, I'm not saying that they're completely right.
I think they're saying do drugs and have sex.
That's
Ooh,
what I'm
yeah.
hearing.
And I get behind
All
that
for those.
100%.
Yeah.
Sex needs to be an adventure. So having
Hell
that
yeah.
definition of being adventurous and willing to explore.
Yeah, I looked at Amanda and Henry the other day and I was like, can we have some really, really dirty sex tonight? Because it's been, frankly, vanilla. And they both laughed because we have a threesome every night. But like, if you've had a threesome every night for months, it's been, at some point it's
You get it
vanilla.
routine sometimes.
It's routine,
too.
yeah.
So it's just being able to go outside, push the limits that you're comfortable with. So that's why I was like, that's kind of what started this whole thought of this episode anyway, because it's like people do want to push the limits and they do want to look at sex as an adventure, but we're like super adventurous if you're looking at that spectrum. And so it's like kind of what's
Yeah.
something to kind of start that adventure. And I think
guess-
it's just,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, I guess I lose sight of that because I feel like I hang out with a bunch of sexually adventurous people.
That's why I kind of have to remember that, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am on, and I'm still probably the most vanilla in this room,
But you're still outside the bell curve.
but I'm still quite far out of the bell curve if you're looking at Utah norms too.
Oh, for sure you are.
Yeah. So it's
You're not on
really-
the chart.
right. Surrendering yourself to your partner. So again, we're going into trust and just being able to have that level of
Safe BDSM play.
I get to put down the shield. Like, I don't have to, you guys. Safe words.
I felt your vibe on that one. I was like, I was thinking about the exact same thing, and then as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, she read my mind.
You guys are so funny. But yeah, and then in experiencing intense pleasure, I feel like this is really related to that whole feelings of euphoria, but also, have you been able to experience pleasure while having sex or being intimate? And some people, they actually say no to that.
Oh, for sure.
that's
There are a
so
lot of
hard
people
for
that
it,
have
yeah.
obligatory sex or, they just, their response is pretty muted because they have all of those like other issues that we mentioned before.
Yeah. All of their areas of wellness just probably aren't aligning and not intentional to align. And maybe it's not important to them either.
Well, it might be a lack of awareness too, that there's something
Yeah.
better out there. Cause I think that was true for me for a long time. Like I had humdrum sex because I didn't know.
Well, because
the
the only thing
possibilities.
someone taught me was sex was this physical response.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
what it went. And I didn't realize how much else went into it to have a good experience, a well experience.
Yeah.
Holistically well. And then the last one, and it came with a couple cliff notes, was having a strong physical attraction to your partner. And, this goes with that physical attraction, changes sometimes. Like, I'm loving my husband's gray beard right now, you guys. I'm loving this. But he didn't have that when we were first married. I mean, he didn't even have a beard, and so it's just kind of being willing to learn and grow with your partner too. And
your
finding
level-
the things you do enjoy instead of nitpicking the things that you're like, "Ugh, I'd wish you'd cut your hair or wouldn't have cut your hair." And I'm doing really safe things right now because I know a lot of people probably go to some of the major things of the beauty ideals and stuff. And I'm not about that. I am very much about body image. So I'm avoiding things because I don't even care to promote those things on my podcast, on our podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Sexy is not a dress size.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, just finding that.
Thank you guys.
And taking it.
Thank you.
Oh, because you weren't following? Oh.
No.
sorry.
I appreciated the compliment.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle. You know, I've had some struggles the last year or two with physical fitness, and me and my wife got chunky together. We still love each other.
I say we're squishy.
We cuddle better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's less gaps and hard places.
But even when they're so, you know, and it's just having that strong physical attraction goes both ways. So it's emulating what you are comfortable with and happy and pleased about, and you can change that for yourself too. And then your partner buys into it. They really do. You know, so if you're constantly saying, "Oh, I wish I was 3 inches taller or had bigger boobs," or anything, you know, that your partner listens to that and maybe they think that's what they should value instead of saying, "I love who I am." And, you know, this is other things. So
I always think about Bette
you
Midler.
can build that attraction. Sorry, is what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
You need to explain.
I
what?
always think about Bette Midler when I think about how our self-image affects how other people see us. Like, she is a boss,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
right? And
Love
she doesn't
her.
give a single fuck. And I want to be like Bette Midler. Like, she's, you know, kind of short and rotund and
Doesn't fit the Hollywood mold of.
not at all.
Yeah.
But still
Not
rocks
at
that
all.
shit.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
Beautifully.
Like, she just
graceful.
She knows
and-
herself, so confident. You would never hear her, I imagine, my version of Bette Midler in my head, you would hear her trash talking herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so as a result, everyone is attracted to her on some level. They may not be like, well, she's the hottest thing around and I want to fuck her, but just they have that respect.
And if she was trash talking herself, it would be like constructive. She's like, "You did good, but we're gonna work on this."
But yeah, so I really wanted to point out that like sexual wellness is for everyone in any capacity, no matter where you're at on that vanilla versus extreme
Spiciness.
scale. And with us always being so comfortable to really go on that far side of that spectrum and really talk about what people aren't aware of, what they don't know, what might be scary or intimidating is really can be safe and fun and adventurous. But that doesn't mean that because you're closer to the other side of the spectrum that you're wrong or boring or not sexually well at all. And I hope no one has ever taken that message from our podcast. And if they had, I truly am sorry because that was never our intention. We love to share things and educate others on things they don't know about or have never talked about. And sometimes those are the more extreme cases. But really, everyone has the capacity to have optimal sexual health.
Absolutely.
And that's within your capacity and your choice and all the things. But so thanks for letting me get on my
Soapbox.
yeah. This is what I love to do. This is what I do a lot in my coaching. You know, we look at those 8 dimensions. We take self inventories. You know, where would you like to start, and then kind of have the guide of a coach that helps you think of ways that maybe you hadn't thought of or had been closed off to. Anyway, but that was just our Sexual Wellness 101 episode.
Love it.
So thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. And Mariah, if our listeners want to get in touch with us, where do they do that?
They can email us, and we love when we get mail. at saltysexcast@gmail.com. They can also follow us on Facebook, and I love that too, because then you can easily share posts and share the podcast with friends and interact with our posts. We absolutely love that. Like, it's just fun to hear what other people are experiencing, their questions. And that's one other way to do it. So that's at Facebook, and you just search Salty Sexcast. We will come up, and we'll say hi.
Yeah. And what if they want to financially support us, Mariah?
Oh, we even love those people even more. You can go to patreon.com, patreon.com/saltysexcast. Please search that way or type in, into your address bar that way. We are not searchable because we're adult content. But again, just a really big special shout out to all of our current patrons and how much they've helped us and really others. You know, they're not helping us. We're not gaining a financial anything from this. It goes straight back into the podcast.
We don't put any of that money in our pockets.
It just helps us get the word out to others and to grow that sexual well-being for everybody. And so they truly have been catalysts in that. So thank you guys so much. But I had another thought and it went bye-bye. So that's fine. We can just tie it up in a pretty bow and be done tonight.
Well, we hope everyone has a fantastic week. And we'll see you next week. Stay sexy
and salty. Bye.
Yeah. And what's puberty?
Puberty? Well, puberty's a lot of things. Here's the piece.
When you hear about it first, it sounds very strange.
Oh, if it really bothers you, you should see a doctor. Then at puberty, certain glands begin to work, and our bodies begin to change. It enlarges the penis itself.
And there's a center opening between those two, which is called the vagina.
The sex education you wish you had in high school.
Maybe a diagram will help.